Good morning. I almost said good evening. I'm used to shows in the evening. But a very warm morning, and yes, that's a different voice there, and the voice is sitting in for Mr. Oscar Semoya Musoke, who is out on another duty. But this is the voice of Charles Odongtho, who is the producer has just said a dangerous substitute for Oscar. And greetings this morning. And this is the Capital Gang 91.3. And this Saturday, 7th December 2024, we are going to be discussing a number of topics. The UDA or Demo for NRM.
Yellow corner. Thank you, Charles. Good morning to our listeners and viewers. Council
But
Robert.
I had not yet invited you to talk.
Okay.
Now you talk.
Thank you, Charles. Good morning to our listeners and viewers, and it's good to see Robert in the gang. Thank you so much for coming again. We've been missing you. I bring you greetings from Mbale City and from the women of Uganda of the NRM.
Yes. I will tell you that I was in Mbale the last month.
Mbale City. Yes, because
I frequented the Elgon region.
I know why. You came to support us, mudslides and to relocate people and save lives. Thank you so much, OPM. And you, Charles, in person. Yes.
No, right now you are not supposed to say OPM. Just say Charles.
Charles, thank you, Charles.
You know things about transitions.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Lydia.
Yeah, thank you for supporting our people in Bulambuli, Bududa, Sinoko. Even us in the city, our bridges were washed away, and we lost property, and I had a barrier of 3 people that had died because of the floods. And really, thank you so much for coming to stand with our people.
And we will be touching on that as well, the disaster situation around the country, and especially from...
so you were in Mbale City and you ate Malewa.
And I ate Malewa, and then the good news, there is a package, good news and not so good. Me, I want to just give you whispers. That they like you, that you are very popular in the city, but somehow you did touch the knobs well to win in the last election. Now, but isn't that a good whisper you'd want?
But this time the knobs have been touched. So the 12th Parliament is loading.
So you better
touch
Yes. Now let me shift over to leader. We will be coming back to you, but let me shift over to a gentleman who is so dear to me. Not that I will give you easy questions, but I usually joke that he contributed to my brains, and so if I have a slightly better quality of brain, then you can thank Robert Chirunda, the council. He taught me at Makerere Law School, and he's a great guy. I've not seen him in quite a bit, but I am delighted that he's here on the gang, and together we will be discussing the topics on the table.
Dr. Robert.
Now, that one was also loading. But Robert, whatever the title is, you're welcome to the gang.
Thank you, Charles. Very good morning to you. Good morning to my colleague Lydia and to our listeners out there. It's been a while. I have missed this studio.
Yes.
Man, a lot
we
of
also
interesting
missed you.
conversations here. Oh. The setup is completely different. Patricia has roving eyes.
I noticed Patricia. Yes.
But I am very sure Robert means that there are now cameras in the room. Otherwise.
But it's really good to be back. And I'm grateful to the gangsters who've kept the show going. It's a very important show. I think it's a very critical one. And to our listeners who are the reason why we come here.
We come here, yes, sure. So and there are many, because we get feedback. We have many listeners.
Good. And Charles, before, I would be really, truly, deeply remiss to not thank Patricia and the production team, to acknowledge you to our listeners. You guys behind the scenes do an amazing job.
Did they contribute to your research? Research is high.
They were always on my mind. In my sojourns in the time I've been away, they're always on my mind.
So tell us the big news as well, because now this time is replete with big news, as they say. Should I now officially say Dr. Robert?
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
This is what I've been up to while
Loading.
I went and did a master's in law science and technology at the prestigious Stanford Law School, which I am truly grateful.
Again.
While I was away, I also finished the background work to my doctoral thesis.
That is the one I was interested in most.
The process of the PhD where I'm studying it is fairly long. I have finished all the work that requires to go into it. It now has to go to a team of 5 examiners, 3 of whom must agree that I get the doctorate. I am confident that that decision will be made in the first part of next year and that it will go in my favor. I've put in all the work, so everything is done. I am just waiting for.
If those supervisors are hearing, listening into this show, let them know that they are up for a good show, for a good presentation moment with Robert.
But I thank you, Charles, and I thank all the concerned people who've reached out to check on me and to ask how far things are.
Yes.
And fingers crossed, we'll bring this chapter to an end.
Thank you very much, and good to have you. So, the topics. We are going to be discussing different topics, but one of those that we need to start with, and the better person to ask to start us is Lydia herself. NRM UDA has come to town. There were banners all over town, posters all over town. I kept saying, what is going to happen? My friend Mpuuga, I was with him at law school as well, taught by Robert as well. But the former leader of opposition in Parliament, now Commissioner of Parliament and MP, now the announcement was, the big announcement now comes that UDA, the Democratic Alliance, is it Uganda Democratic Alliance or it is Democratic Alliance, has been formed. Lydia, that is a competitor, if we go by the ideal political democratic world. Are you worried about any new formation that is coming from central Uganda, that is coming from offshoots, if I may call it, of DP, offshoots of NOP, but of a number of other parties that want to come together? Are you worried as NRM? Are you concerned? Isn't it a good thing?
First of all, I would like to inform our listeners, and that we will not tire to inform people, that the 1995 Constitution, that was a creature of the NRM government, gave freedom and rights to people to associate politically freely. So for Honorable Matthias Mpuuga, the Member of Parliament from Masaka City, to come and bring a new association, the freedom to associate, and start that journey, we congratulate him. Whether NRM is worried or not, we are not worried, but we are alert. We don't take any opponent for granted, or we do not underlook any efforts to remove our space. So we've taken note of the new developments, and we are going to dig in and ensure that nobody takes our space. In the last elections, this formation of NOP, if you remember, began like that, and they grabbed some parliamentary seats and space, especially in Uganda sub-region, which we have now been on the ground to recover as the NRM party. We've put a lot of effort. So the same, if you remember, NUP began around this time. As they began around this time, and finally they were able to grab some political space. So we are not worried, but we are alert. We are alive to the reality of our opponents, to what they bring out to show, but the experience has shown that the propaganda and the campaigns against the NRM, finally, those lies are outlived, and people always come back to the NRM. So when we came to the 11th Parliament, or this term of office, we were many members of parliament from Buganda, but we had recovered from other regions massively. For example, the Acholi sub-region, the Lango sub-region, West Nile has always been ours. Teso came back to NRM, Bugisu is NRM, and of course the Western Uganda. So we are back on our drawing board, and we are drawing them up, and we're on the chessboard. So watch the space, because 2025 NRM is going to be started by our internal reorganization, having new leaders of the party. Then we shall have flag bearers. Then in September and October, you'll be seeing us very busy seconding candidates to compete in the national arena of the general elections. Right from LOC1 to members of parliament, the presidency, NRM will sponsor candidates, and we shall make sure that we put out our best foot to win, because we've been able to make a case on the promises we made in the last manifesto. And as you know now, our national chairman is actually checking on the progress. Next week we are going to be in Sebei. We've just come from Karamoja a few weeks ago. The other week we were in Teso and Bukedi. So we are combing the eastern side of the country. We began with northern Uganda. So worried? No, we are not worried. Working? Yes, we are working. Being alert? Yes, we are alert, and we are on the ground. Thank you.
I'm going to ask, I just want to ask you a follow-up question, but before I do that, let me just announce that we have been joined by Right Honorable Abdu Katuntu, MP from Bugweri, and Honorable Katuntu, say hello, just to brief.
No, you should also add that also MP from the diaspora, because he's our MP for the Pan-African Parliament.
Thank you for that kind introduction.
It's double MP.
I'm sorry I'm late, but I'm glad to be here. It has been long since I last saw Mr. Kirunda here. Map is looking good. What have you been up to?
He looks younger, right?
He has cut the age. He was in school.
Who has read so many books, and they all over his face.
Do books make people look younger, really?
The example is just right in the story.
He actually looks like he has been on a holiday.
You are far too kind, Abdu. You are far too kind. But I have missed you guys as well.
How can you only talk about to Robert? What about me? I'm in the studio.
Let me also say that we are expecting Honorable Mike Mabikke from the Democratic Alliance, from the new formation. But Honorable Lydia, before I bring in Robert and Honorable Katuntu here, I'd wanted to ask you, I picked an interest from the catchy headline of Daily Monitor. Daily Monitor in today's headline, I think, says that Mpuuga unveils new political alliance to fill NUP void. The NUP void is put in inverted commas to eject Museveni. The NUP void. Is there a void? Yes. What do we understand from in your political strategy? What do you understand from that? You talked about Central. You talked about association and the diversity of political parties and formations and all that. What do you understand from that?
I don't know how many marks I would get speaking about NUP, because I really spend most of my time working for the NRM. But
you are an interesting opponent who fears talking about their opponents when given an opportunity.
I dig in my business and look for votes in all areas. But for the Monitor to say he's filling the NUP void, well, he's been the vice chairperson of NUP in Buganda. And maybe they want to share their space as NUP, but they will find NRM on the ground.
Good. Robert.
Yeah, without any doubt.
Robert, you have heard from Lydia, you have heard from my questions. Your take, these political formations that are coming up, now gearing up for, this is December, 2-3 weeks from now we will be in January. 2025 is pretty much really an election year. We can't run away from it, can we?
Charles, first of all, I congratulate the Honorable Matthias Mpuuga for taking the bold step to launch a political party. Many of us, starting with myself, have never even dreamed of doing such an undertaking. And I'm not sure that I would, for the reason that I'm going to state now. In 2015, I wrote an article on the state of constitutionalism in that year. That article came out 2016, but I was analyzing the events of 2015, the constitutional events of 2015. One of the conclusions I reached was that, because I think that was the year when we saw the Honorable Hon Mabikke
candidate
go forward, yes, as an name I was looking for.
Okay.
And I reached the view that, in my honest opinion, political parties will not solve the Uganda political question, no matter how many we form. And I based that on analysis of Uganda's history from the pre-colonial parties, the ones that agitated for independence, to the ones that have existed since, including the ones that we had by 2015. They all suffer the same problems. I only got to learn of the announcement in the evening. I was at an event for much of yesterday afternoon.
The big announcement.
So I only learned of it in the night. I don't know what the message is. I don't know what the pitch is. But unless there is something truly earth-shattering in the way that this party positions itself and intends to deliver, unless they have a radical change in strategy and approach, I will not be sitting on the edge of my chair for what the Democratic Alliance can do. That's not to say that the players in there don't have the capacity to cause impact of any kind. That's not my position. My view is the questions of today, we have enough political parties for. And I think I will leave it at that.
Okay. That's quite interesting. That's a loaded statement, and it's really very timely for Honorable Katuntu to pick it up from there. And
Charles, may I just point out that the Honorable Katuntu is looking finer than me. Yeah. We have already agreed that the shirt he's wearing, I am living with. He has called his driver to bring another one.
No, you can go in the vest.
He usually knows how to make his picks, whether it is political party or timing to be in a certain political corner. He makes the best picks, and he has not yet failed on that. So we are also looking forward to what he will pick 2025, 2026 and onward. That is, for me, the thing I know about Honorable Katuntu. But before Honorable Katuntu picks the mic, we have been joined by Honorable Hon Mabikke from the new political outfit, the Democratic Alliance. Honorable Mabikke, just say hello, wave to the people if you like. Just say hello and say thank you for welcoming me here, and that I apologize for coming late. I was delayed in a jam. First, do that.
No, I will not speak like Honorable Katuntu. I was not delayed in a jam. I'm happy to be here, first of all. Listeners of Capital Gang, how are you? I had a busy day yesterday, so frankly, I will not speak like a politician. I want to be frank. I woke up late.
That is Honorable Mabikke.
And therefore, I had to find my way here, and I'm happy to find the Honorable Katuntu, Mr. Chirunda, my sister Wanyoto, Lydia, who is supposed to be joining the DA soon.
You're starting the fishing from here. When I came in, I asked Robert whether he's the legal counsel for the DA. He said he has just come back from somewhere else. He doesn't know yet what's going on. But
when he gets to know, certainly he will be happy to associate.
No, let me clarify. I do not intend to join any political party. I have not joined any political party in my adulthood. That issue will not change today. Not to the DA, not to any of the parties in Uganda.
Never say never.
No, Honorable, I can tell you. This one I will say never.
Honorable Katuntu, you came in and you listened to your colleagues, and they have put forth a number of ideas, good for democracy and for pluralism, and but Robert makes an interesting comment. Political parties will not solve Uganda's political question. I need you to start from that and then run with it, so, unless if they have, radical strategy changes and all that. Do you think that is?
So political party will not solve Uganda's problem. What will solve Uganda's problem? Because at the end of the day, the country is managed politically, which will not be managed technically. It can only be managed politically, and decisions of politics are not technical. So you may think so, but at the end of the day, it is a political class that will manage this country. And if we are condemned that since the political class cannot solve the problem, then who will? Is it the army? Is it the civil servants? Is it the politician? Management society is about politics. But having said that, so I hold a different view. They may be having a lot of tribulations now, like they've had in the past, and they must clean up their act. Maybe that is a better way of putting it. Before,
actually, Honorable, you know that I rarely interrupt, but if I may,
sure.
The point about political parties, my point is not that political parties are unnecessary or that they would not solve the problem. The point is you don't need new parties. Fix the parties that exist today. In Britain, you have the same parties with all their issues, and they find out how to clean up internally, change and grow and grow. If every 5 years Britain had a new party, that list would be endless.
Yes,
so it's a question of ideology.
You are right
and
wrong. You are right, because I agree with you, ideology.
Yeah.
And many of these political parties are not founded on an ideological basis. They are not. But that is not unique to Uganda.
Okay.
Take, for example, in Kenya, every electoral process, they are political. We call them special purpose vehicles. Every political process. And even the next election, you are going to see crisscrossing around and new formations will come in. So there is nothing called a political party in Kenya. In Kenya, it's purely a special political vehicle, which goes for purposes of that particular election, not actually for two elections, but that particular elections. So it's not about Uganda alone. But ours has got another problem, as I see it. One, NRM has had its own share of these tribulations. Defections from the NRM for the last 15 or 16 years, time of Dr. Kiza Besigye and so on. So it has had these defections and disagreements. Many senior NRM have disagreed, and some have gone to retirement. Others, like the late Eria Kategaya, let his soul rest in peace, were in and out and in. Then the NR and the NRM were fused. You had the Tenyefuzas, you the Tumukundes, Amama Mbaba's Right Honorable. You see, so you've had all those. Advantage the NRM has, though, is that they're in state power. So there's a little bit of leverage. You can do that, but you have other infrastructure that keeps you going. And then you also have a very strong leader who has managed to continue piloting the ship even with this turbulence. The Forum for Democratic Change, when we formed it, we thought it would be the legitimate opposition. We suffered the same. Unfortunately, we never had the leverage the NRM has. And what it is today, I don't want to talk about it, but what it is today is a shadow of its former self. It comes to Uganda People's Congress, the same problem. Mm-hmm. It comes to the Democratic Party, it is even worse. Hon Mabikke is here. You've had several formations of the DPs. Now there's another DP Mao, there's another DP still in Kavule, there's another DP which has gone through Kavule and it has ended up somewhere where it is. So it's going to be that. What I see today is that when the National Unity Platform was formed, it was not about like political like mind, except wanting change. And when they came together, all of them were like different background, different manners, ideologically different, career different. So, and somehow something came up, what you people call a wave. And everybody, especially in Uganda, the wave was on. In Busoga, the wave was on. Though in Busoga, it was at a different level. It affected the presidency, but it didn't affect the members of parliament. In Uganda, it affected both. Passing of time was going to be the judge whether it is sustainable. Unfortunately, it isn't. As we've seen, there have a lot of differences now coming in management, in ideological thinking, and so on. So many of them have fallen out. Was it surprising? No. To me, it wasn't. Because they could have learned more from the FDC. The problems we had in the FDC. Were they going to be the same problem? Yes. Were the challenges the same? Yes. Were the reaction to disagreement the same? Yes. You know, everything was like you would remove NUP and put FDC, and it would be the same. So now, the group that has disagreed in law, in domestic relations, we call it that you've reached a point of
irreconcilable differences.
Irretrievable breakdown. So they reached that point. Irretrievable breakdown. So the Mabikkes, honorable. The Mpuugas, honorable, must find a home. So you must take, you must take a choice. Do you stay in and continue fighting? And the spokesperson of the party said, Mabikke infinito. Mabikke infinito. Meaning, finished.
He's finished.
Finished. And if you're finished, according to your leader, you're finished. So you must now, because Hon Mabikke, Hon Mpuuga, many others are politicians. So who is going to determine their political fate? Is it somebody who you say, those are infinite or they are finished? Or you say, okay, I may have disagreed with you and you are the current leader. Now what do we do? Let us now go and to the people and have our own home, political home. And I've got to congratulate you. This is where you belong. Because the way I see, many of them were originally Democratic Party. So they have some, actually, not only Democratic Party, they were Uganda, what do you call that youth group? UID. They have a little bit of, they have a little bit of a working relationship. They have been together for some time. And I can see many names coming to join them, those who are not in the yesterday's functions. Talking at the risk of sounding to be knowledgeable.
Will Honorable Segona join?
I don't know. But most likely.
He will tell us.
But I don't know. But it not most likely. It is possible. Because you see, the background, Kavula has already blacklisted a few. So even if they wanted to go and get cards, they will not get those. You call them cards. I forgot since I left political party. Party what? What do you call them? Those things of yours? Those ones.
No, so, they call it the flag bearer.
The flags.
That's what you're looking for. Yes, the party ticket.
Those things.
Yeah.
So they have. I don't think Kavule was willing to give them, because Kavule is now trying to define itself with one, loyalty to the dear leader, the principle, and if you don't, you say
I like the title dear leader.
Oh yeah, dear leader, principle. So if you are not so loyal, you are gone. You are gone. So you either have a choice of staying and continue fighting, and Kavula has got his son of fighting. I don't know whether many of them would like that sort of fight. Because they go on social media and throw everything in the kitchen sink and that sort of thing. So many of them may not be that sort of caliber politician who would want to start throwing kitchen sink against each other. You throw, they throw, you throw, they throw. So the best thing to do is exactly what they did. Find your information. Can you convince many people outside Buganda, for example? Outside what? Buganda. A toll. Quite a toll. Because even when you look at their background, was the original DP was really, that's why in the last 3 or so general elections, many members of parliament, actually, not many, 90-something% of DP were Buganda based. DP was strong when I was a young man in Mpuuga, but since I joined politics, we've never had a DP MP. Not even one. The only place where they have had some DP representative is actually Acholi. Other than Acholi and Buganda, is there any other place? Hon Mabikke, you remind me of?
Not as of now.
Not. I like it, not as of now. So, their political history relates basically to Buganda. Now, Buganda, you have to compete with the National Unity Platform. Uganda will compete with the Forum, the National Resistance Movement. FDC, we also never had an opportunity to do well in Uganda, actually. We never. We did somehow well in Kampala, but rural Uganda, upcountry of Uganda, we never attended from rural Uganda. None. I don't remember. Do we have in Uganda? Yeah. Not in Mukono, not in Mitiana, not in Vudu. No,
Kampala.
That's Greater Kampala Metropolitan. So now, but DP was beyond the metropolitan. It was also within the country Buganda. Now, NUP has also gone to country. Actually, it had captured the entire Buganda. Will it be possible for the National Unity Platform to have the same momentum it had in the last general election? I have my own doubts. That momentum
across the country or in Buganda, as you were referring
did it have momentum across the country?
Okay. I just need you to be clear for the sake of my listener.
I thought the youngsters know that the momentum actually for NUP was in Buganda, and as I said earlier, in Mpuuga at the presidential level. That's where the momentum was, and that's where it ended. In the north, it was literally zero. In the east, the Honorable Nambeshe won more as Honorable Nambeshe, not as National Unity Platform. Because really, Honorable Nambeshe is is a very solid leader, yes. Extremely solid, very strong, and he has his own politics. Whether at local government level, he was the district chairperson, he had been a member of the National Resistance Movement, and he had won his seat as NRM in the other election. Yes. He comes, he disagrees, he goes as NUP. First time he wins. So it's more about Nambeshe. Very, very strong leader and loved by his people. But
Honorable Abdu, isn't the point? Aren't you raising a larger point there, which is?
I always raise a larger point. Tongue and cheek, of course.
Absolutely. But I think you're touching another point there, which is isn't it fair to distinguish between momentum and translating momentum into votes? There is a general issue I find in the minds of many ordinary folk on the street, the assumption that crowds translate into votes. I think the distinction in the NUP wave, as I saw it in the last election, is that everywhere they went, they had a massive, massive crowd across the country. The votes, however, translated into a different result. And I think that's something that any politician should keep in mind. And that now goes to what you're saying about the Honorable Mabikke. That the Honorable Mabikke, people who vote for him, don't vote for him because of the vehicle through which he arrives. They vote for him because they believe in the solid person that they believe him to be. And that can be said of yourself in Bugweri, that can be said of a number of other strong politicians who've been on the scene, at least since 2001.
Yeah.
You know, and to be fair, in the changing landscape of Ugandan politics, I think that between 99 and today, the landscape has been changing so dramatically that anyone who is able to hold a seat more than twice
outgrows the political party.
Yes,
precisely.
That's true.
That it doesn't matter the formation. People are voting for you, and there are those who have been there since the CA. You see,
Not very many, though.
not they've been the number has been reducing with every election. But the fact that someone can stay on the political scene in Uganda's dynamic, changing times, I think that speaks of something. And so, people forming political parties now need to be alive to why exactly do people wake up in the morning and go and vote for the Honorable Katuntu in 2001, 2005, 2006, 2011, 2016, 2021? You see, and by the way, in between, he has gone from UPC to Reform Agenda to FDC to, you see,
Now independent.
Certified isolation.
to independent. You see,
To no color.
you see, you see,
color, no.
No color.
that is where I come from to say
That's why you see him in
there
this church.
there are people in Uganda who say we want to contribute to solving Uganda's political problem, but not in the shabbiness of the political parties.
Good,
You see,
good.
Can I say one thing? Because you may take it up
2
later.
minutes. 2 minutes. I wanted to bring in
Yes,
Honorable
now
Mabikke,
let
but-
us look at how many independents were in Parliament in the 2016, how many independents were in Parliament in 2021.
How many are they now? In 2016, they were, I think, 47.
Yeah, now
They are nearly 70 something.
we are now saying
You're many.
more than even the official position. Now, yes, that's the truth. For us, independents, we are more than the official position.
Exactly.
Oh, yes,
And
official,
Charles-
or more than no.
Yes,
that makes the point.
that's the point I wanted
Yes.
to agree with you. We see a certain trajectory. The increase of the number of independents. I'm not so sure whether multi-party may not be rendered irrelevant at some point. That you wake up tomorrow and over 50% of the MPs are independents. What would be left of a political party system?
At that point, we go to your
Maybe the two of you especially. I know the
Sorry,
rest
sorry,
here
sorry,
are all
sorry.
lawyers, but not so much practicing. But
If the majority are independent,
Yes.
now I
More
wanted
than
to,
50%.
who becomes the leader of opposition.
That's what I wanted to ask. That's what I wanted to ask you.
It's something which I grapple with
Because
I see a
politics-
trajectory.
Yeah.
The numbers increasing, and I am quite sure
Independent
that in the
thinking becomes
next
the opposition.
parliament you are going to have more independents than the official position again.
Abdul, that-
There are even going to be more. So if it goes on as it is and you end up 50% plus one independence, what would be left of a multi-party dispensation in this country?
You see, that's where I go back to
Good
my original
dilemma
idea
to ask
that
about.
the solution to the political question in Uganda is not these vehicles. The solution is we might see ourselves transitioning through the Kenya route, that you're going to have formations of some kind.
Okay.
Now, formations in the past have not worked. They tried it when the Honorable Mbabazi left the NRM. It collapsed. There had been a...
But there was one of 96, 97, the inter-party, what did they call it? IPAC.
The IPC, IPOD, all those things have not worked.
The late and
All those things are...
all
So
late.
now, my view is that those people who are on the scene, the Honorable Mabikkes, the Honorable Katuntus, must rethink carefully and deeply on how to craft a new formation that can act, that is intended not for political survival, but for political, what's the word? For the stability of the future. You now must think beyond individuals.
Okay.
You must
gentlemen,
first.
Before
Honorable Katuntu, Honorable Mabikke, Honorable Wanyoto know that in politics, it doesn't matter what Robert is discussing in terms of quality of a democracy to deliver service, but that you must survive as a candidate or as the rest are details. And someone said, in any case, the rest are just vehicles to deliver
we
you.
We take the principle of the aircraft that you first of all secure yourself before you secure your next neighbor, even if it is your child.
Even if it is your child.
On the flight turbulence.
Oh. Honorable Mabikke, you have the best, actually, fortune in this discussion. You have had the, how do they call it, the helicopter view of all the discussions about, about the Democratic Alliance, political formations, history of our politics also thrown in there, and the political, the special purpose vehicles and all that, examples given by Honorable Lydia, Honorable Katuntu, and Council Chirunda. Why did you decide to, and then of course there have been discussions of your old political outfits as well. NOP has been mentioned, the DP, whatever they are. Why have you gone, Suvi has been mentioned, and we are going into an interesting time where, shall we have another wave? Shall we have an improvement of the wave, or shall we have a deflation of the wave and a burst and then go individual routes? Why have you set up this new political outfit? Honorable Mabikke.
Thank you, Charles. A very interesting discussion here.
I like it, actually.
And I have listened attentively to Robert and veteran Katuntu. Number one, I thought a question here whether political parties' new formations were relevant to the present challenges. And the answer is of course obvious. If you don't have political parties, then what else can you have? Political parties are a vehicle to take you through a journey. And I always tell people that our intention is to go to Entebbe. But I've got a Vitis. I am driving around Kampala Road. It fails me. If I've got a better option, a cruiser.
You cruise?
I cruise. I leave the Vitis and jump onto the cruiser to go to Entebbe. So, political parties are vehicles. They are a means to the end. They are not the end in themselves. That must be clarified. Two, we are now dealing with the aftermath of the collapse of Katuntu's party, FDC. Katuntu's party made many mistakes for those 20 years.
Katuntu know that he has many.
No FDC. I have singled out specifically FDC because his last known address was.
Which he passionately founded.
No,
yes.
The other one I was born in it.
Yes, and
the DNA. The DNA is red. But the one I bust,
yes,
is what Hon Mabikke is talking about.
And I know him there. I know what he did. I know how passionate he was, and I think he too is dealing with the aftermath of that collapse. The split in FDC affected
the Land Cruiser.
Yes, that was it. I think affected the politics of the country. There's no doubt about it. Because you should not forget that this NRM of Lydia Wanyoto is not actually a political party. It is a military come political formation. It was an alliance. It was an alliance of gunmen You know, Kopro what Nyoto. It was an alliance. I hope she has bothered to study the history of her party. It was an alliance of Ghana men together with the peasants of Luwero, and at the end of the day, when they were approaching Kampala, they also brought in the DP elite group, the Semogeres, the Mulemas, and that group. Yes. Of course, it had been an alliance to counter UPC at the time. And the DP sustained that alliance, by the way, for a long time. And ultimately, they formed what they call the NRMO. NRMO did not really transit a lot from the original military political formation. So, NRM itself is an alliance, by the way. And it keeps changing. As I speak today, NRM is now also, actually, has built an even broader governing alliance. A governing alliance of NRM now, PLU, I hear, DP Mao, and I am told a section of UPC. So what is the challenge now? The challenge now is to build a new governing alliance. Many people forget that we are NUP and we are founders of NUP. When the FDC collapsed, we decided to regroup and reorganize the Democratic Party. And all of you know of the events called the DP reunion. All of you know the works and the formation of the DP bloc. The formation of the DP bloc was a regrouping of all those scattered forces that had actually gone into abeyance or had gone into other things while FDC dominated. So once we regrouped, that gave the formation of a force called People Power. The foundation of People Power was DP, and it is a People Power that finally transformed itself into NUP. So we are NUP. We are the founders of NUP. We have never joined NUP. NUP actually joined us. These
can you say you are now out of it with the DA? Because no, you must belong to one.
I can tell you that when we actively participated in NUP,
I noticed the dragging of
our intention was actually to build what Robert has been saying. You know, you rebuild afresh, you build a new focus, you build a new national agenda. You know, you start offering solution to the prevalent challenges now. Now, inside NUP, of course, things did not go as anticipated. First of all, it was an alliance with the wrong group. It was a mistake in the first place that we could agree to sit and allow novices to lead seasoned people, seasoned leaders. You know, to allow hooligans.
That's a very strong statement.
Yes,
of political leaders.
But you usually know what's happening on social media. You really just know what's happening in social media. You can't act that. You can't call your vice president a thief. A president of a party, standing anywhere, using a public forum, and you call your vice president a thief. You know that? Then you go to another forum outside Uganda and you call your vice president and members of parliament dogs. This is very serious. So you can't act in such a formation. You know, you had so many leaders, seasoned people, are being allowed to allowing themselves to be led by fellows who are so inexperienced, fellows who have just been doing many other things, and thinking that though you could work with those fellows to set an agenda. Now,
but isn't that, Honorable Mabikke, isn't that a big political dilemma for you, even when you go into elections, especially that elections are about the
Charles, it's
popularity about winning votes.
Charles,
you need to first get the
Charles,
votes.
it's not even about 2026.
Okay.
First of all, it's about correcting a mistake and getting back on the correct path. One, when we fronted Mr. Chagulanyi at the last election, Buganda accepted. By the way, he did not win because it was a genius. This is work which we had done over time. In the DP block, our strategy was to capture, because formally, since 1996, Besja and Samogere had been winning West Nile, they had been winning Acholi, they had been winning Lango, they had been winning Busoga. Bugisu, and parts of Teso. They have been winning. The problem we used to have at the time was Buganda and Busoga and the West. So, in the last strategy, we said, no, let's have a formation that can now that we have those other areas, let's have a formation that can focus largely on Buganda and Busoga and parts of Bugisu, so that if you add these three regions on the rest, then you have the number. And you have a way to the numbers that we require to win over the presidency. But when we moved in with that candidate, yes, we did very well in Uganda. We won Uganda. Yes, we did very well in Busoga. For the first time, we won Busoga. But sadly...
No, you only won at presidential level.
Yeah, at presidential level we did. Yeah. That was important. That was important. Because had we... Mr. Katuntu, had we won West Nile, won Acholi, as best they had been doing, had we won Lango, had we taken over Teso, Buganda, and Busoga, that would be game over. That would be game over.
You're right. That's why you're saying.
Yes. So, what happened? What happened? With our strategy and with this candidate, we were only able to consolidate in Uganda and Busoga. But those regions which we had been winning reversed back to NRM. West Nile we were defeated thoroughly in West Nile. We were defeated thoroughly in Acholi, which we had been winning since Samogere. We were defeated properly in Lango, which we had been winning. We were defeated in Teso. We were defeated in Bugisu. So, after the election, we went back and asked what was the problem. They said it was about your candidate. Actually,
in those areas?
Yes.
You went back.
At one point, we were in Acholi and we had a meeting of elders. We had a meeting of, and they were saying, gentlemen, for us here in these parts, we don't vote musicians.
Huh?
We don't vote musicians. Actually, without Besije, we had to go back to Museveni. He said, you mean you couldn't see any quality in our candidate? I said, no, your candidate is best at music. He cannot lead a nation. Find a better candidate. We shall win you, we shall give you votes again. So brother, this is about correcting a mistake. It was a fundamental mistake. We are lions being led by sheep. And this is not sustainable. Now, what are the challenges today? 3 challenges. 1, transition. 2, reform. 3, reconciliation.
Transition, reform, reconciliation.
So are the challenges today?
Those are the challenges of Uganda.
Political challenges today?
Nothing like the demographics, the youth now.
Those are all catered in that.
Okay.
Those are all catered in that. Uganda needs transit from this Museveni formation into a new era. Uganda, the guns that liberated us in 1986, continue to rule us. We have never transited.
Understood? Talk about reconciliation. What
yes, I'm coming to that. This is very important. This is very critical. This is very critical. Uganda has never had peaceful transfer of power for 62 years. Everybody who has come in has largely had to swim through pools of blood to get to State House. And we thought that Museveni would be the last. It has not been possible. Actually, even if you talk about economics, you talk about education, you talk about these things happen. You know, you remember, all of you remember that we had a very beautiful country called Libya. In Libya was more or less a paradise. You had free medical attention, you had free education, you could just walk into a showroom and get a car and drive away. If you are a university graduate, you want to marry a beautiful lady like Lydia, you would just go in and even get a free house, marry, get a free house, and even get allowance. But the issue was about the politics, the leadership. The leadership.
Can I just do this, Honorable Michael? I need you to wind up on the issue of reform and reconciliation, and then we move to another topic. But I have to pay my bills as well, because, before I pay those bills, the adverts, I need to say that we are enjoying coffee, breakfast served by Star Cafe on the table here. So keep it, the Capital Gang, 91.3 Capital FM. Welcome back from that break, the commercial break, and let me restate my panel. We have Honorable Abdu Katuntu, MP Bugweri. We have we have Council Robert Chirunda, not yet MP, doesn't intend to be one. Sorry. He's a lecturer and a PhD student. We have Honorable Mabikke Mike from the new political formation, the newest party on the block, Democratic Alliance. We have Honorable Lydia Wanyoto Mutende, who is from the yellow corner, the NRM ruling party. We have also been joined by Faith Myra, who is the chairperson of the Young African Leaders Initiative. And I want to give Honorable Mabikke just 2 minutes. You raised the issue of the biggest, in your view, the biggest political question in Uganda currently, and you said that there are three in your view. That is need for reform, need for a transition, and need for reconciliation. You had touched on the transition, which we have all understood. I needed that important part on reform, why reform is the biggest question, and the issue of reconciliation. And then I wanted to throw some aspect of the recent census in your discussion, and whether you're thinking about it as well, the demographics.
Which is census?
Okay.
Do you have the results of that census?
Actually, we don't have them yet.
Okay. Let me call it preliminary.
No.
Preliminary findings.
You have to apologize to our listeners.
Honorable Katuntu, you are a lawyer and you deal with policy. The policy in Uganda is that the Bureau of Statistics is the official owner of statistics in the country. So let's respect that. Let's accept for now, preliminary as it is.
Okay.
Youth demographics. 0 to 17 years. 0 to 17 years says they are 50%, 0.5, I think. That, and the 17, the ones of 17 years will be voting.
No.
Then there is 17, 18 to 35, they are 20%. Put that into your discussion. Robert, I will give you just after.
No, Charles, I think let's be fair to the listeners and to Honorable Mabikke. The question of the census has been hotly contentious.
I think we leave it.
I think it's unfair to ask Honorable Mabikke
where do I get those results
to factor in numbers that are unreliable. At least to the extent that UBOS came back and recalled those numbers. They recalled those numbers. There is no official position.
UBOS came back and sat in this studio and gave us the reasons there were challenges with those numbers.
No, Charles.
Is there a report on the website of UBOS where I can get those numbers? Now.
Charles, you're a lawyer. Charles, you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer.
Yes, Robert.
You deal with what we call credible evidence. Would you say, you as Charles Odongdo, that those numbers are credible?
I think
would you?
So let's be. You are also being unfair to me. But let's be fair
to the Honorable Mabikke.
Let's go back.
Was all that part of the 2 minutes?
Having brought Mabikke into the question, Honorable Mabikke, do this. do this. Touch on the last two, reform and reconciliation. Wind up. If you want to use what I asked, use. If you don't want, drop it.
Charles.
Use it the way
Number
you
one,
wish.
may I clarify that the DA is not a political party.
Okay.
It is a
Yet.
Okay.
it is a
Political formation.
It is a civic platform.
Okay.
As of now,
Okay.
that will ultimately
A civic
transform
platform.
into an electoral alliance, an electoral platform.
Okay.
And we have said very clearly that we shall transform into an electoral platform at a moment when we are sure that the requisite reforms, electoral, administrative reforms, have been effected. We think that this nation needs reforms. We need to reform government. We need to reform the way we conduct our elections. We need to reform public service. We need to reform parliament. We need to reform cabinet. Yes, and we have actually published a concrete proposal to that effect.
Okay.
We also think that this country needs reconciliation. You are talking about these demographics. You are talking about most of these issues. There have been issues between regions, issues between political parties. There have been victims, there have been perpetrators. We need a government-led reconciliation process that will finally resolve some of these long-standing pain and the injuries that people really carry with them. So those issues we have published a document, and we think that they are quite relevant. Now, going back to the DA is a formation, it is a platform, it's a civic platform, it is only a building block of even a bigger governing alliance to come. Don't you think that we are going to end up with just the DA? We may actually, at the end of the day, transform into even a broader, wider, all-encompassing, people-driven, people-centered governing alliance. Abdul Katuntu talked about those electoral alliances, those alliances in Kenya, and yes, they have served the purpose. Uganda is a unique situation. Uganda is not the normal democracy you find in Ghana, you'll find in Malawi, you'll find in Botswana, you'll find in Namibia. It is not. Here is a leader who has been around 40 years. The guns that he used to capture power, he has never dropped. He is using the same guns to sustain himself there. And he is, of course, co-opting politicians, co-opting actors, civic actors.
Has it gone into elections?
Into this. Now, elections in Uganda are a mere ritual. Actually, elections have become a ritual every 5 years. If we go into the next election without addressing the challenges of the past election, we will have entered a process whose results we already know. And we in the DA think that there are issues to talk about. We are not going to sleepwalk into that election without actually resolving some of the issues that presented challenges in the last election. And we are happy that, by the way, the leader of the DA did request for space on the order paper to present well thought and well researched proposals on reforms that we need to conduct before the next election. So, in summary of this, one, what are you trying to do? We are trying to correct mistakes. What are you trying to do? We are trying to renew hope. What are you trying to do? We are trying to rebuild quality leadership. What are you trying to do? We are trying to build a movement that can finally address national challenges, not Buganda issues, not Busoga issues, not Bugis issues, but a movement that will get back to the track and look at the nation as a whole and actually drive an agenda that mirrors the aspirations of every Ugandan. We are trying to offer a new vision, a new direction, and we're trying to really present serious vision. Not in this Katemba. My friend was talking about the numbers. You saw the numbers in Kisoro. How are those numbers done? Now, actually, we want to stop all that now at the end of the day. How are those numbers done? Here, somebody moves with 30 costers from Kampala. He goes to Chisenyi. He gets young men. They dress into red. They are put in costers. 900 people already, because a coster is 35 people. That's 900 people. Then he gets 45 MPs. 45 of his MPs carrying 7 or 8 people per vehicle. Then now you go to Kisoro, drop this group, they begin marching, and you think this is support. At the end of the day, you get 903 votes, and you made a lot of 10,000. Because of course, when you see people marching in red, singing, oh man, you think now you have too much support in this region. But actually, when these numbers have been transported to the area,
okay.
So that's not the kind of politics that we want to do. We want to do real grassroots politics. When you go in an area, you have genuine support, you've got committees, you've got structures that can actually translate into votes, real votes.
That answers the question. Was it Honorable Katuntu or Honorable Kirunda who said
Kirunda.
The question of momentum?
Momentum. That's not momentum.
The numbers, the population in a campaign versus the votes. The Americans say prose versus poetry. So this is what is going on is the poetry, and the prose is the one that is now the vote. Can it come now, Robert? Before you come in, someone has said, I am happy to have Charles. I am happy that you have on the gang to one of the best. On the gang, one of the best brains on the show, Kanso Chirunda. I am listening in. Please make a comment. I hope that is not one of your students, because students tend not to criticize their lecturers. But we have 5 minutes to wind up with all of you, so use it appropriately and make the last comment on this topic. We have to shift to another topic.
Yes, I'll be really brief. First of all, my deepest gratitude to that listener for your very kind words. It's always humbling to get good feedback from our audience. You know, listening to the Honorable Mabikke, there's a bit of sadness in my heart in the way that Ugandan politics shapes up. If I review the discussion so far from where we started, these are the points that crystallize in my mind. Number one, Uganda's political parties have massive problems that they need to fix. Number two, and my argument was that I'm not sure that fixing those political problems requires a new political party. I think it requires a rethinking of strategy and repositioning. Now, we must disagree on that with those who are in the trenches. Perhaps they see things from a viewpoint that I don't, and I respect that. But number two, when I listen to the Mabikke and he makes the point about the fallout and the aftermath of the unfortunate collapse of the FDC, the question on my mind is, why don't all the people who disagree with the NRM rally around fixing the issues that were wrong with this really strong organ called the FDC and get beyond personalities? So I'm going to leave two questions. That's the first one. The second one is, there is a sad and tragic thing that I see in Ugandan politics, which is what Bill Clinton in his campaign of 1992 called the politics of slash and burn. Ugandan politics has this unfortunate trajectory where the day I fell out with the Honorable Mabikke, his job is to destroy me. My response then becomes to destroy him. In the end,
that's not only in politics.
What it does, not only in politics, of
even
course,
in public service.
What it does is it stops us from going beyond to a larger agenda. Now, to be fair, and I know the Honorable Abdul would point this out, to be fair, that's not just a Ugandan problem. You will see it in US politics, you will see it everywhere, which is why I go back to it's the one thing that stuck in my mind as a child when I listened to Bill Clinton's acceptance speech in 92. He said, we must stop the politics of slash and burn. When I listen to the Hon Mabikke, what I don't hear is how do we go beyond that to fixing that, generating that national consensus in a new structured way that is beyond individuals. And that for me is one of the many missing pieces on the chessboard. I will leave it at that.
That you have made is a big problem, I think, across Uganda, and you find it in the church, you find it in civil society, you find it in public service, you find it in politics. So how do you, in political parties, so isn't it part of the Ugandan DNA, and how do you solve it? Someone has said that our politicians, the leaders we have, come from the same society that have those problems. Honorable Abdul Katuntu, your concluding comments on this topic. We need to transition to another topic.
Yeah, maybe from that person, the society gets the leaders it deserves.
True.
Having said that, I'm equally sad. You know, Mike, you talked about reform and reconciliation, but your tone does not portray yourself as a person who is a reconciliation seeker
or promoter or even advocate.
It doesn't. And my counsel, and I've been around for some time, as you know, to you people, please, if you are really interested in genuine reconciliation, you must change your tone. Definitely. And two, don't look at the people you've disagreed with now as hooligans, as enemies, and even if they were, you need to stand above them. Then you'll have a moral right. So, by the way, this is a different group of people. If you return kitchen sink against each other, you're going to spend what Lydia talks about, sometimes uses the word negative energy. You'll spend a lot of negative energy, and Kirunda is saying it quite simply that, look here, you lose out on the focus on the real issues. Then you start, engaging each other negatively and so on. Because I can see now what is going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen. I'll be pleasantly surprised. In the next election, you are going to be too much between you and Kavule. That's what it's going to be. Fighting for Kavule is going to return fire. You also return fire. I don't know who is going to be burnt by that fire, but at the end of the day, the serious guys who are thinking that this country should be managed better are the losers. So the political class must change. We need a paradigm shift. We must change. At some point I say we are all sinners. None of us is righteous. Please, none those listening to us. We have all sinned. Until we go back, I say, where did we go wrong? And how do we move from point A to the next point? We will be involved in this sort of thing. Because at the end of the day, that group in Ikavle, you can't rule them out. They may be inexperienced, they may be whatever it is, but they are there.
They have their base.
They have their base. And you must engage that base very constructively. Don't fight it. You fight it, I don't know who the winner is. Lastly, Mike talks about reforms. I have my utmost respect for the Honorable Mpuuga. I think he means well. There is no doubt about it. And many others who talk about reforms. But the sort of reforms we need in this country today are not legal. No. They are not legal.
They must be political?
Yes, and let me give you an example on the electoral laws. We have the best electoral law in this country. And let me give you an example. Does our electoral law allow rigging? It actually criminalizes it. Does it allow bribery? It criminalizes it. Does it allow the army getting involved in elections? It criminalizes it. Violence. It everything you would want, the law is already in place. But the problem is where? Do we implement the law? The problem is actually impunity. Impunity. Is there a law which allows bootstrapping in this country?
No.
Eh?
Even
actually, it's criminal.
There is no law that allows impunity as well.
Yes. You see, it is impunity. So the solution to it is actually not legislation.
Okay, Honorable Katuntu, I would love to listen to you and keep hearing you, but unfortunately, time is not the best resource. So let me bring in Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, very 1 minute. But Honorable Lydia, Honorable Katuntu, this is the joke. When Honorable Mabikke spoke the way he spoke, do we really need Honorable Lydia to speak?
Yes, and this is why.
Don't dance at it.
No, the listener did not hear that. Honorable Lydia, 1 minute.
You know, my colleagues at the gang said my rank is Lance Corporal, and I said, okay, but the one I like most is RSM. They will let you know what. The RSM is the
Regimental Sergeant Major.
That one is the best one I've always liked.
I am a son of a soldier, so I know all ranks.
RSM is my best rank. I like the way they do their work. Even the Katuntu has that background, so he knows. That's the one I want in the establishment of the army. But anyway, yes, when I come here, I speak. Sometimes my color is yellow, and I speak for the NRM. But for Uganda, we need leaders, really. And it does not matter what color you are. So, Mabikke, in your launch yesterday of your formation, you also had to bring in, I think, a musician, Allen Skin. So, really, your guns at Kavule, because the strength of Kavule also is from the music industry. But that does not remove your right to be, you want to balance the boat with also having musicians. So what value does the Alien Skin and bring is also the guns are now focused on Kavule. But hear this from me. No, the other issue. No. But let me finish. Let me finish.
But is that person the best representative of that census demographics? Maybe the lady here, my sister here, will take.
But let me see. The 1995 Constitution and the laws attendant to electoral laws and governance, we have accepted even in our laws and even in the political environment that we have multi-party dispensation. What does that mean? That the leadership of Uganda will speak to forces that are and pro and against. We need checks and balances. So, we do not want to have a monopoly where there are no checks and balances. The NRM would wish to have an opposition leadership that checks and balance what we do. But we want credible opposition. So when I cannot dance, or you see people saying I'm dancing on the grave, but I cannot dance on your grave because we have the majority. For us, we are organizing. Really, you have to put up your socks. Don't blame us. Because now I have seen a picture. I am last couple, I'm a brave dancer. I am RSM. But the point I want to say, Ugandan deserve better. Okay. Uganda deserves better, whether in the ruling party or in opposition. At the end of that day, we owe it to the Ugandans to serve them and to deliver better. So whichever side of parliament, we shall sit in the 12th parliament. Because OO has said the vibes from the city in Ibale, I'm gearing to the 12th parliament. But the issue is, we want credible.
Yeah, I will keep giving you the
We want credible leaders, whether you're in opposition or not. And please, if you are NRM, stay NRM. And if, because the virtue of leadership is also dignity and also being honest and transparent. Why use one leg here, the other leg here? Those of you who are always in transition of colors, style up. Because
but
Uganda,
what if you have been chased?
Uganda deserves
but the two legs
better.
Cannot be in the same place.
Okay, 3 legs. Okay, three legs.
Ladies and gentlemen.
3 legs. But the point I want to raise,
Charles, yes.
People think that we would be happy to what's happening in opposition. No. Because at the end of the day, you're going to end up in parliament with bitterness, with your petty fights, and you're not going to serve Ugandans. We want leaders that are above internal fights, that will serve Uganda on either side of the house. Okay. So I hope that you can get back to your leader. There's a picture on social media they sent me this morning when I was coming here. The border is Matthias, but the face is Museveni. Now, if you are going to begin doing those things, you form your party. For us in NRM, we are solid. You come, we compete. May the best team win.
You don't want anybody who is not NRM to associate with the Museveni.
So
you are about to.
No.
Lydia is competing for Museveni with other people.
No,
she said this is ours.
No.
Why is
the impression is, let me listen, Katuntu. The impression is that you see, whenever there are divisions like what's happening in Ikavule, it is because NRM is what is putting in their hand. And I want to say no. Raise the occasion and do your thing. Why are you saying that now there is a hand of the NRM in your fights? We don't want to fight. We have enough work to do. We are delivering the manifesto. We are preparing for election. We are too busy to know what's happening in Ikavule. So you give NRM a break.
Sure
you do your thing. And Mabikke, please defend us. Because this is your thing. We are too busy to be...
Hence the accusation.
NRM is too busy to know what's happening in FDC.
Welcome back from that last break. This is the Capital Gang, 91.3 Capital FM, and the panel is discussing a number of topics. The next one we are moving into is the gender-based violence discussion, and 16 days of activism is what we are going to be looking at. We have in the studio Faith Myra, who is the chairperson of the Young African Leaders Initiative and is also a specialist for gender and youth with the sexual reproductive health rights. In the studio with her. Yes, it is. But even your title is a mouthful, Honorable Katuntu. We have Honorable Katuntu Abdu, MP. They now call him a veteran MP. He has been in Parliament now 25 years.
Only.
We have Councillor Robert Chirunda, a lecturer at Makerere University, teaches law and a PhD student. We have in the studio Honorable Mike Mabikke.
Michael.
It is Michael. Which one do you like? Sometimes Michael. In journalism they teach us use what the owner prefers. Michael. Oh, sorry for using Mike. Honorable Michael Mabikke, former MP, a member of the Democratic Alliance, and Honorable Lydia Wanyoto Mutende, who is chairperson of the Women's League, NRM. She is a presidential advisor. She is a consultant with the National Planning Authority and has been IALA MP twice. And Honorable Lydia and the rest, good to see you. Now, 5 minutes, my sister Faith Myra. What is this about the gender-based violence that you are taking 16 days, 2 weeks around Christmas to take us into activism when we want to go home, we want to go and rest with our families, with our village mates, and just eat and drink? Now you are taking us into activism, and why?
Thank you so much, Charles. I think to the listeners, thank you for joining us. I believe starting from your very statement of saying that we want to go to the village and relax, drink and all of that, I think that is an impossibility because there's a lot of violence happening. Like people get drunk, their families unite, they fight more. So I think it's important that we look at gender-based violence beyond issues, women's issues or human rights issues, but also economic issues, because Uganda, first thing, we lose a lot of money because of violence, and I want to refer to some research that was published by Forum for Women in Democracy. It published a research that Uganda is posted an estimate of 31 trillion Ugandan annually due to gender-based violence. And that is because in terms of loss of productivity, because when people are hurt, they don't work. When you look at child marriages, when you look at the girls that drop out of school because of violence, they don't get to actually contribute to the economy. And when you also look at the healthcare expenses that come as a result of GDP, the come of the results of GBV, we realize there's a lot of medical expenses that come to that, especially when it comes to serious injuries, physically but also emotionally. And when you also speak to other related costs, litigation, report, transport around, moving around, chasing suspects, and you will see that there's a lot that speaks. I know that politicians, our leaders, understand the language of money. And that's why I want to speak to GBV in terms of economic impact to the country. And to just reflect on some of the statistics. As a country, globally, 1 in 3 women. You see, you count us here, how many are we in the room? We are 4 women. 1 in 3, you see here, have experienced some form of violence.
You're 4 out of 8, so it is well balanced.
It doesn't matter the balance. I think we shouldn't lose the statistic in this, that you're looking at every woman out there, you count 3, one of them has faced violence. And when we were at the Eastern and Southern African Youth Symposium on GBV shelter policy, the Assistant Commissioner highlighted a statistic that shocked me but also brought me to think. Last year about 12,771 cases were reported for GBV, but about 5,000 were actually litigated. Look at that gap. Are people accessing justice? These are issues that I think it should be a political issue as we head into campaigns and elections. I was enjoying the conversations of the honorables here, but I can't help but think, in their constituencies, do they have shelters for survivors? Someone that has faced violence that can't stay home because their perpetrator is at home, do they have a refugee space? I think these are things you should include in your manifestos and look at if people are going through a certain, whether it's sexual, it's physical, it's emotional, financial violence, where do they run to in your constituency? And I think that's why it's every member of parliament's issue. I want to say and commend the country, the government. We have very good policy framework. There is a lot of policy as a country that we have, right from the Constitution to the Anti-FGM Act of 2010. We have the domestic, there's a lot of policies you would outline as a country that we have. The question is, Councillor Chirunda said, the implementation. We are just failing to implement some of the things that we have. Why? Is because I think we are not intentional on putting resources, domestic resources, to say that it's a shame as a country, all the shelters, which are the safe havens for survivors of violence, are actually owned or operated by non-government organizations or private sector. What does that mean? It means, as government, you have no, shelter that you can put aside. And you'll debate with me to say maybe there are factors that would be resources, but also people might abuse them. But should we ignore that just because there is that? Because there are people dying every day. You went to release a statistic on 25th, which is the beginning of 16 days of activism. Very shocking. Every 10 minutes, we just sat here. A woman dies because of GBV. 10 minutes globally. So that means we're looking at losing lives, but also having a society that is ignoring or that has normalized these issues. The other thing I want to say is most of the time when we're looking into GBV, we want to look at it also as a culture and societal thing. We have a community that has, normalized, say, that's a marital issue, they will sort it out. But in actual sense, there is until someone dies, we say, oh, he killed her or she killed him. And when I speak about GBV, gender-based violence, I don't speak to only women. There has been increasing cases of men facing violence, but there is stigma in the community that men are not willing to come out and say, I'm facing violence, are not willing to report because they will be laughed at, to not be man enough. And so I want us to look at GBV in this conversation as more than a women's issue. And today I speak for youth and young women because the generation we are, if we do not work with the adults that are in parliament, that are in government systems, that are in private sector, and create a safer world for all, then we would have failed those after us. So I really want us to reflect on this, not as a women's issue, but as a human rights issue, as an economic issue, as any issue that is affecting your constituency, as you go to the campaigning period, what are you planning to put in your manifesto to actually see that? And every person, it's a duty for all of us. If we put our actions together, then I think we'll be able to address this elephant in the room. And maybe to finalize my brief on is to say that I think when we think that it's an issue that we can leave to a certain section of the society, I think we have failed in all terms. We are failing our grandchildren or some of us. Okay, we are all gonna die, and that's something I want to always tell myself positively. When my time comes, I need to be able to feel like I've done enough. So when we leave this world, our great-great-grandchildren are gonna ask themselves, what did my great-grandfather do when he was in parliament? What did my great-grandmother do when they were in parliament regarding this issue? And I think move it away from a national statistic, bring it to a level of my home, my lineage, and maybe we will care more to see that we actually make this a reality. We join hands, unite, like the theme of this global 16 days of activism this year is unite, invest to prevent violence against. So we need to invest. We don't want to just talk. We need to see really tangible. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you to see how do we make this a reality. Government, private sector, youth, the new DA, all these alliances that are coming up. My question is, so what? Because I always ask myself, as politicians are making this movement, so what? What is the impact? Because that is where the youth is interested in. That's where the woman is interested. That's why children are interested, to see. But if we just join, whether we are moving yellow, red, or whatever color, I want to see us ask ourselves, so what? Okay, we have launched. Okay, we are now this. So what? You're in parliament. So what? You're in that position. So what? So those kinds of questions you should ask. People have trusted you with power. So what? 5 years, you go back, so what? So these are questions I want us to reflect on and say, what am I doing in my capacity to address some of these big issues that we tend to side to a certain section of the society? Thank you so much, Charles.
Oh, thank you very much, Faith, thank you. Good proposition. They have listened in, especially the representatives of the viewers out there who are in this room. You said as you go into the electioneering, there are two people here. I need to confirm the third one. Honorable Hon Mabikke, are you going to stand in elections in the next round? Yes or no?
Yes, factors remaining constant.
Yes. Okay. Let me start with the most senior one who is going to stand. Honorable Katuntu.
Katuntu is not standing this time.
When did you become his spokesman?
He has said it in a media.
When Honorable Katuntu, have you said that you're not standing this time?
And I don't intend to say so.
What I know, Honorable Katuntu Honorable Katuntu and I started a talk show on another TV.
Yes.
And he said he was not going to stand. Then when he was going to change his mind, he said, I will tell you when I change my mind. Then he said so. This time he hasn't yet said so. So Honorable Katuntu, on gender-based violence, your take on it, given what especially the statistics, the worrying statistics of the gender-based violences that take place around the country, but most especially within our own settings, within Uganda, why is it such a big challenge? Can we resolve it? How do we need to resolve it? Faith has done an interesting approach that let's look at it from the economic perspective, but he also touched on the human rights perspective. Your view?
Obviously, puts it in another perspective, which I'm not so much an enthusiast. That's for the Gen Zs of this world. But let us look at those of us from some other generation. How did we handle this issue? With the new constitutional order, 1995, she's asking what our leaders have done, what have they, blah, blah, that sort of thing. She should know that our 1995 constitution did put in place provisions that guarantee quality, that guarantee out cultures. There is certain word it uses about, cultures that, what is it? Bad culture? Repugnant cultures and so on. We put all that in place. We didn't have to wait for Gen Zs to remind us. We knew what the problem which was in society. And if you don't identify the cause, then I'm not so sure whether you prescribe the right solution. So, to me, gender violence has got 3 causes: culture, economics, and bad manners. 3. And if we don't address those, forget about your symposiums or your activism and so on. Sometimes changing a culture is a very gradual process because it involves sensitization, and what was yesterday is not what it is today. Society has been changing. It's not that the matter is getting worse. I am telling you, if you ever lived in the village, I'm not so sure whether you do, it's at some point gender violence was terrible in the villages. Whatever man said, if a woman disagreed, it will end up into violence. Things have since then changed. Changed really. We have made progress. You could still have those pockets, but we have made progress. Economics. At that time, many women didn't have any wealth to talk about because the basic means of wealth is land. Women could not even own land. So, with land, people are fighting over land, and there will be violence, and there will be violence and violence. So what we have to be doing is to empower women economically. I don't know. I can't speak for myself. I can't look at my children like this is a girl, this is a boy. They're both my children, a girl and a boy. They are both have the same entitlement and so on. Except clan land, of course. Because my daughter will eventually go and get married to another clan, and she establishes a family and so on. It may be very difficult for her children there in Mabikke's clan, where my daughter has gotten married, to come to the Baganda Sepukoja also. Yeah, and then there are those sort of issues. But this, we have to handle it, gradually. And let me tell you, sometimes the approaches we use do not help the situation. They don't. So we must find a way of handling the issue of empowering our women, especially the young girls. Such one, we educate them. They are taken to school. Today, government has, they say, of course, it's not about the NRM government alone, but internationally, where there is universal education, both at primary level and secondary level. I hope it can continue, and it goes up to tertiary education level. When the leaders were going to university, I don't know whether it's your first lot of the 1.5, we used to call you so. I don't know whether that was a compliment. So there are those where government said, look here, we are having a problem about the girl child, therefore we need to have them go to university. And at that time, they gave them that affirmative action of 1.5 points to make sure that we have as many girls as possible.
To cut the entry points.
Yes. And these are realistic issues, and it works. You get it? So we just have to be sometimes people may have good cases, but they don't present it to the best of. And if you don't, people resist. Society resists. Yeah. So we need to be very careful. Culture. Let me give you an example. For example, in Sebei, because it is so. I can't even imagine. It is terrible. People who go for FGM and so on and so forth. But over time, it is changing. It has taken a little bit longer, but it's changing and so on. Because if you confront, they withdraw. The worst of that actually were the women themselves, especially the elder women. They were the one who carrying out these things and so on. So and then you have to confront a very big problem, but you must find a way of handling it. So my advice to you activists, please don't make it like it is pure about activism. No, we need to be changing the culture. We need to be educating our children, especially the girl child. She goes to school, enabling them economically. They have the little bit money, they own wealth. And some of those things over time, they may not be as big challenges as they are. But don't make it a situation where you're like, it is us against them. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I say this because I know it has been so
in other
discussions by some other actors, and they make a very good case, again become controversial out of no reason.
Okay, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, your thoughts on this?
She's the women leader of the National Resistance
Chairperson, Women's League,
something like
of the National Resistance Movement. She took over from her.
Jacqueline.
Yes.
Okay.
Why are you emphasizing that?
No, I just wanted to know.
Honorable Lydia.
I want to thank my sister for coming to speak to the 16 Days of Activism. It's an annual event around this time. It begins on the 16th, and there are 16 days, of course. But
maybe also tell us why the choice of 16. I have never understood that. Does it have a meaning?
It's just a global campaign.
No symbolism.
No symbol.
Every day has kind of like a right.
Okay.
That they are
the
so
different rights.
The
different. Every day speaks to a different right,
Brilliant.
but it's a global thing. I've been part of this campaign for a long time, like Abdu was saying, but also experience helps because. Yes, this is a global campaign. It's very important that you domesticate. Yes, there are 16 days, but we need to unpack so that it speaks to the environment in Uganda, so that it can work for Uganda. If you remove it from culture, if you remove it from the economic environment, if you remove it from the status and just look at what the global acronyms speaks to about the rights, then you lose. And I want to go back to the 1995 constitution that has helped us to domesticate the Ugandan cause and the Ugandan case. The whole chapter 4,
the Bill of Rights
of 1995, the Bill of Rights, speaks exactly, and it gives us the tools to which we can domesticate and make it work for Uganda, because the Bill of Rights in Chapter 4 of the 1995 Constitution speaks to, and from that Chapter 4, we've also been able to put in place institutions and policies. The 1.5 has been mentioned that now empowers women to receive skills and an education and to leverage women to be able to compete with the proper skills and professionalism. But there are also programs and government departments and agencies. For example, the 1995 Constitution made it possible now to entrench that we must have a Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. That ministry speaks to the rights, it handles issues women and also men. So that's already a government contribution to frameworks and to tools through which this can work. But there are also other laws and other privileges. You remember why do we have every district having women members of parliament, councillors? All those are special seats that are supposed to empower women, so that in the course of empowerment, you also empower others. And the moment you are empowered, then you also need to find a way now. You negotiate power relations. Is that a big word? In a home. And you learn how to negotiate. You don't be you learn how to leverage. You negotiate power relations in your home.
You can imagine the face expression.
So what do I mean like this? I think negotiate, because every unit of even here in the gang, there are power relations. So you negotiate to keep safe. You have to negotiate. So what am I saying? I am saying that this time around, I thought we should begin not to flag out so much the statistics that are scaring. We should also bring out stories and narratives of people that have had a good history,
and testimonies
of
positive
of life without violence. How did you make it without violence, without gender violence?
Yeah.
We need those stories.
Now you are talking like a real communicator.
So that people are able to learn, to say, okay, for me to be in this relation or family, this is the way, the tools and the skills and the experiences, because we are speaking like other people have not lived. There are so many people out there who have lived without violence. So
can
we also
I
need
also
to bring
advise Honorable Lydia, we work together on communications,
yes.
Putting together communications. Terminologies matter a lot. Now, if you have just seen from just this small sample of people, the men here, Honorable Katuntu and Honorable Mabikke, they are talking about power. Can you say responsibility sharing instead of saying power sharing? Because the moment you make it power sharing in the institution of marriage, you are going to have a problem.
They're telling me to stop, but there are issues of ego, not even just power. There are issues of respect. There are issues of relations and culture. On how, but then power in our setting. I want to be very specific about culture. At the end of the day, we must learn in our culture that the head of a home, if you are married, because I'm a widow, and there are people who are single. But in the dynamics of where there is a man and a wife, it does not matter how economically empowered you are, the man is the head of the family. So you must know that, so that you avoid this power. You are leveraging your economic muscle against the husband. The husband is the head of the home, whether he has money or no money. But that one we must teach our people.
Honorable Mabikke,
and negotiate that relationship.
We are doing badly with the time. Honorable Mabikke, your thoughts on this gender-based violence, the 16 days of activism. How should we approach it?
Well, first, Lydia is too young to be a widow.
What's your problem?
Now this is a Muganda speaking. Now this is a Muganda, and he's speaking from culture.
Mabikke, you a Christian? That one you leave it to us.
Yes, to the Muslims. That leave it to the Muslims.
You see, that is culture.
It is so embedded in their DNA.
You see, when I got widowed, I was told that after 4 months and 10 days, somebody should come and take me away. Why? Because they are supposed to that the 4 months and 10 days are supposed to make sure that you are not pregnant. So that somebody else can now.
Yeah. Honorable Lydia,
that's for another day.
For another day. Honorable Mabikke,
why you're not acting? You guys, you should act properly.
Honorable Mabikke, 1 minute.
It's only
2 minutes only.
1 minute.
Number one, really the problem of gender equality crusaders is the same problem of anti-corruption crusaders. They have failed to take the fight to the community. Their approach must be community-based. And of course, when you talk about community, then you talk about, of course, culture. Culture comes in now. It must be mindset change, period.
Okay.
Mindset change from the community. Now, I have listened to Faith. She's talking about global, the global aspect, that context. Well, if you go to India, it's different. If you go to China, it's very different. If you go to the Arab world, entire Arab world, it's different.
Iran now has just been following how even if you wear the burqa, what do they call it? The Islamic dressing for women? No, we need for education. If you wear it wrongly alone, you are subject to detention, prisoning.
Localize this crusade.
Honorable.
Yes,
Faith. I'm going to give you 1 minute to wind up the discussion. Give time to Honorable Mabikke.
English common law, in which my friend is pursuing a PhD, is failing to provide
a remedy for this.
But we can provide it in our own setting.
Yes.
Despite the entrenched negative culture, we can
localize it. But the
and that is what Faith is asking you people to do.
Yeah,
let's localize it and approach it from our perspective, but solution we must provide.
Charles, when the colonial man came here, he had a target. He had objectives. And you should know how he was able to change the mindset.
Okay, mindset change.
Yes.
Council Robert, from your perspective, Lydia talked about testimonies, positive testimonies. Do you think that is a good way to approach it?
I'd like to just make 3 points on this.
Very quickly.
Number one, I want to start with acknowledging the women and the organizations that have been consistent on advocating the gender question in the time, for the last at least 25 years that I've been dancing with the law. The names that come to mind are, for instance, the late Jennifer Okumuwengi, may she rest in peace, Weeding the Millet Field. Those who went through school would have read that book. Sylvia Tamale, When Hens Begin to Crow, Professor Tamale. Those are icons, and I think they deserve their flowers.
Yeah.
Forum for Women in Democracy and other organizations, they've done a fantastic job in highlighting what culturally, yes, culturally has been a serious issue. Number two, I have, in terms of feedback, a few thoughts for you, Faith. One, don't keep the context of this gender discussion. When I listen to the debate here, it seems to resonate a lot in the context of rural women. Let's not forget the urban women. Let's not forget the boy child.
Mm-hmm.
I have understood gender. And by the way, I do think that for people in my generation and those older, and I think I'm the bridge between the generations you see here, the people in my generation and older, the discourse around gender, I learn from the young ladies that I have the privilege to work with at my office. Every day, the nuances that relate to gender. You underestimate the need for awareness even among the educated and the elite. Please don't. Mm-hmm. But also there's the context of economic, cultural, but let's also talk about the generational dimensions of the gender question and educate us. What do you mean by gender-based violence? Are we seeing new forms of abuse? I'm wondering, are we seeing new forms of abuse? Are they still consistent? Other than that, I personally salute those who are ahead of the fight and who are doing the best they can. And I think it's a cause that we must all embrace and do our best to contribute to.
Honorable Katuntu, you wanted just 30 seconds?
Yes, 30 seconds. You see, you need to acknowledge the women leaders who sort of started this fight. And it's not the one, of course, it's not the one Mr. Childa is talking about in this country. Look at the roles played by Ida Wanandeya, Joyce Mpanga, Florence Nachon, Miri Obote, and many others. And their sort of fight was not like the modern sort of fight of these ones. No. One, they realized what was required. And this thing about culture, I'll give you an example. My sister here, Faith, talk about, you need the refugee spaces for
Faith
those.
Is your daughter.
Yes.
He said he has been in parliament for 25 years after serving as a council.
So, let me tell you a story. I can't imagine a refugee space for a man who has suffered gender violence and is put in some, you call them what?
A shelter.
Hey. Say, here I am in the shelter.
Yeah,
I am Chirunda. There are things which, and this is reality, lady. This is reality. There are things. Don't just import things because they have happened in the US and you put them here or Europe. It cannot work.
Faith, you have had the feedback. Lydia is next to you there.
Shelter for men.
Shelter in Namutumba.
And they come and tell you they are men.
The things that are coming out. For me to summarize what I've picked. Mind about the sentiments, the culture, the communication.
Okay. Thank you so much,
Your
Charles.
last one.
And every time I encounter different people, especially men, and not really, I think there's more, like you mentioned, a lot of awareness to be done. Sometimes you imagine or estimate a certain understanding. But I think what matters right now, and what I want to call upon everyone in the studio and everyone listening, is that the paradigm shift to bring it to the country context starts with you and me. It's not Faith Myra's role alone. I need you to know that this is everyone's responsibility. True. And even in Uganda, different regions, different communities have different perspectives. True. So for us as leaders of your communities, you understand best what suits your constituency. So again, it's your role to say, maybe this is what is going to work. And you asked about the new forms of GBV. Gender-based violence has increasingly gone online, digitally, and you will have a lot of cyberbullying and harassment. You have a lot of emotional blackmail and, all of these things. And when we speak about good testimonies, like, they are there. But again, how do we utilize your platforms as, leaders and bring these people to talk about this? Because for me, I believe individual efforts are what we are looking for. Because we have brought this from global level to national level. My question to you is, what are you doing? It's
at your local level.
At your local level, not at
Honorable
Parliament.
Katuntu, what are you doing in Mpuuga?
Because we have the policies, like you say. The government has put up policies. But what are you doing with those policies in your community is the question. And reflect on it. What are you learning? What are you unlearning and relearning? Because learning is a lifelong process. If you are stuck in your perspective of this is what I know and this is what the world is changing, digitally, culturally, everything, economically. So you also need to be able to flexibly learn and relearn. And I believe this is a good beginning conversation to bring you on board as advocates to end GBV in the community.
This has been a continuous.
Thank you
Yes.
very much, Faith. Thank you, Faith.